Deku Fam!
Hey Deku Fam!
Welcome back to our channel!
Welcome back!
We're back with another video, and in this video we are talking dating, we're talking situationships.
I don't know why you're dancing when you're saying situationship, because it's not a good thing.
Yeah, it's not something to be proud of.
People find themselves in situations that last way too long. How long are you going to find yourself in a situation with someone who's showing no interest in you? The red flag is there, but you're not aware. Why? The question is, why can't you see the signs?
Yeah, it's because we're just caught in the feelings. We're just like going with the flow. But you know what? Only dead fish go with the flow.
And you know what? We're going to tell you some of the things that your partner is doing that is actually showing that they have no signs of love or admiration towards you.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Yeah,
let's get straight into it.
Let's do this. Okay, so you should know that someone is not into you if you are not prioritized.
My goodness.
This is big.
Why is it in the early stage of your relationship you're fighting for attention, you're fighting for quality time, you're fighting just for something, for like some kind of affection? Why are you fighting? Why should it be such a struggle?
Especially in the early stage when you're just getting to know each other, you're trying to, be with each other all the time, emotions are running high. We were just obsessed with each other. We were both at university, we were in our final year, our dissertations were getting no time. It was all about each other. We just wanted to spend time with each other. It's a serious sign if the person doesn't fight to spend time with you.
Because I can't imagine being in a situation where literally I'm trying to book time with Anna and then she's constantly giving me excuses. She's constantly rescheduling our dates without even giving me a suitable excuse as to why she can't make certain engagements. It's just frustrating. And I know being in a situation, obviously you want to be hopeful that the person is doing things with good intention in mind, but you just might have to just really conclude that this person is not really that into you and actually keep it moving.
But do they actually invest and show you that they actually want to spend time with you? Because there's so many people who are really good at just giving it all the talk and saying certain things, but actually are they investing that time? And I think if they're not, that's a clear sign that actually you're not a priority to them. You make time for what's important to you.
Exactly.
And if you're not feeling prioritized, then you're clearly not important to that person.
So bye. Say bye.
Another way to know that someone is not really that into you is when there's a lack of transparency.
Yeah. And what we mean by transparency is that they're not really bringing you into their world. I remember when Anna and I started to get to know each other, there was a great sense of accomplishment. Like, I secured the bag. You see, this girl is buff. She's a buff thing. And I'm really into her. Her personality is amazing. Look at her, she's woo, every day, woo. But yeah, so I was just so excited to introduce her to my friends. I was so excited to introduce her to my family. I wanted to just show off and be like, I'm the guy, you know?
Yeah, and that's a big one actually for guys. Like when they start talking about you to their friends, so not necessarily you meeting them immediately, that should definitely come over time and is a red flag if that's not happening. But in those early stages, are they telling the people closest to them about you, about the fact that they've met someone like you? And is that information coming back to you? Because if not, then there's a strong indication there that he's not that into you.
Because the question is, how long are you going to stay behind the curtain and be the best kept secret? Not meet any family, friends, etc. It's just you and them. And the thing is, in the dating phase, you want to be kind of integrated within friendship circles, just so you can really get a sense of who they really are. Because they can be putting on one persona to you and then be a completely different person when their friends are around. So you want your worlds to kind of collide, integrate, so you can really get a sense of who they really are. And if they're not willing to show you their friends, people who are who they love and who they hold dear to them, are they really that into you? Another
way to know that someone is not into you is when there's a lack of depth in your relationship.
Oh my God. Some people like to just do vibes. And
Shallow.
Vibes is good in the short term. Let's not get it twisted. But it's not going to build your relationship. There needs to be a sense of vulnerability. There needs to be a sense of openness. One key thing is I'm also looking out for, and I was looking out for, was how many questions Anna asked me. Because to me, it showed that she was interested if she was willing to ask a few questions. So if I say something and she asks leading questions, because she's really trying to get to know me and who I am so that we can better forge our lives together. And that was very attractive. It was nice.
Yeah, and some people take a lot longer to open up, but when you're asking the questions, are they giving you more each and every time? Do you feel like you understand their family structure? I can't imagine that 2 years down the line, you still don't know, anything about their family history. You don't know anything about their previous relationships. You don't know anything about so much to do with that individual, because you're just having shallow conversations and it's just vibes and more vibes. Exactly. And maybe they know a lot about you because you've freely given that information, because you're seeking
the way you were just
an intentional information.
You were just freely giving.
Because you're seeking an intentional relationship. But then is the person reciprocating that? Are they also giving you information about themselves?
Because the thing is, I identified in our relationship is that true intimacy was through our conversation. Like, Anna was sharing her heart, I was sharing my heart. We were, really exposing ourselves to each other, to who we really are, and actually really building a bond. And it's very difficult to just build a bond on vibes. You need that depth in your relationship. So if your partner's not willing to open up, or they're not even asking you questions to find out more about you, and your relationship is very shallow, maybe they're not asking you questions because they're not really that interested in you. Maybe they just want someone to play with, and until someone else comes along in the picture, and they're just happy having you there for the time being, in hope that someone will come later on down the line.
And it's better for you to know sooner rather than later that this person is not someone who is willing to go all the way with you. They're not someone who wants to.
And we're not talking all the way with you in that context. Because that's easy. That's the easy stuff, okay? We're talking about real depth.
Emotional intimacy.
Emotional
if they're not willing to go there, and it's going to be hard for some people because they've never opened up, but there should be a position where they are feeling more and more comfortable to do that with you, because you're the person that they potentially want to spend the rest of their life with. But if they're still being very guarded and not wanting to share information, then that is a serious red flag and you should cut it. Another sign that the person is not that into you is that there's no discussions about the future.
Yes.
Oof.
I think for us, one of the things that we love doing in the early stage of our relationship was just dreaming about the future. And we probably dreamed a little bit too far.
Much.
Like from day one, we were talking about marriage. We're not expecting everyone to be doing that. But just a little bit of excitement for progress. Like, excited to see you on the next date. Excited to see you in a month's time. Like,
thinking about your birthday in the future.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh, I can't wait to
celebrate you.
Your birthday.
Like, there's a sense of excitement that we are in this and we're progressing together, and we're looking forward to a next milestone, so that we could be together and celebrate X, Y, and Z.
And it's so interesting because when I was with my ex, I was so scared to talk about the future. And I should have seen that as a red flag. Like, anytime someone mentioned to me, oh, you and this guy have been together a while now, you're like, are you thinking about marriage? I was like, no, I'm not thinking about marriage anytime soon. But as soon as I get with Gabes, it's like, boom. I want to talk marriage. I was like, when can I get your last name?
She literally had a dagger to my back, pointing me to the altar. Okay.
I was like, you shall marry me. You're not marrying anyone else. But yeah, it's so interesting. So maybe reflect on your own perspective, but actually look for the signs in someone else as well. Because if they're not talking about the future, if they shut off those types of conversations, if they're thinking very short term, then that's not a sign that they are into you.
The thing is, if someone is showing that they're having a good time in the moment, but yet they failed to talk about, commitment or exclusivity or something about the future, it's a bit of a mixed signal. It's like, what's really going on? Are we just catching vibes for the sake of vibes for the time being? Or do you actually see this going further? We have to be willing to ask ourselves those important questions to establish whether someone is here wasting your time or whether they actually want something serious with you.
And the last way to know that someone is just not into you is when they don't verbalize their affection. This is so black and white, but it's easy to get lost in the source of them just doing so much for you.
Definitely. Because what we've realized that people can do grand gestures. They can fly you out here. They can take you on nice dates. They can be there for you emotionally. They can be doing all the right things. And all that's happening is, in your mind, you are telling yourself a story of what the relationship is. You're saying that, oh my God, because he's doing this, because she's doing this, that must mean that they're really into me because they're there. They're a really good person and I love the relationship. Everything is going well. But the one thing that they haven't done is told you exactly where their head is at. They haven't told you how they feel about you. And so a question should be asked. How do you feel about me despite all the things that you're doing? Because the reality of the situation, this could be the person's character. They don't mind spending £1,000 at a nice restaurant. That's just what they do. They've got the cash. It's nothing big for them. But you're like, ooh, it must be nice.
Yeah. And Gabes is an example of someone who does a lot of the gestures. And I was so blown away by him doing all of that. And I think in my mind, it was so easy to just run away and just think, yep, this guy likes me. He's a good character. He's not doing this for anyone else. But I had to still ask him the question. I was like, what did this mean? You wanted to take me out. Why'd you like me? Give me the reasons. And he's not a talker anyway, but he was able to validate his actions with his words. But there's a lot of situationships where the person is just literally doing the absolute most for you, but has not said a word. They haven't told you that they like you. They haven't said anything. And you are just creating a story in your mind.
Yeah, because it's important to be on a solid rock. And by that solid rock, you want to be told exactly where you are at a point in time. Are you just doing these things because you can and you have the resources to be able to do it? Or are you actually doing it for me because you actually value me and you want to, express your love for me in this way? So thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the gestures. But I would appreciate if you would also tell me so that I know that all these things are not in vain.
Actions and words are both important. Not one, not the other, but both of them, especially in the early stages of a relationship. I guess later down the line, you've got the time, the proven time, especially like in marriage, that I know I've seen you and you've bared fruit. But when you're in the early stages, when you're in, the dating stage, even pre-marriage, you still need the actions and the words to line up with each other.
Because people like to say like, oh, I don't need no words, I just need to see that he has actions. But if he hasn't confessed or she hasn't confessed that they're into you, then maybe they might not be.
In situationships and in the dating phase, it's so easy to go with the flow. It's so easy to be just caught in the emotions of how you feel about that person, but you actually need to put your head above the water and actually assess the situation.
And it's a difficult one because the thing is, you might actually be really enjoying how things are going, but then there might be this small red flag that you just need to pinpoint. And it could expose so much that the person's really not that into you and they're just doing nice gestures because they can. And that might actually burst your bubble. But it's okay for your bubble to be burst as long as you have full transparency on what the situation is, rather than allowing your head to go years and years down the line to then find out that the person's not really that into you.
And this was actually me. As we were talking, I was thinking about my exes and how I would just be in the situation for so long. And actually, when I look back, there was clear signs that they were not into me. It was so clear. But I was the person that was holding on for dear life.
Sorry about that, man.
Right?
Sorry.
I was really holding on.
You were.
But, I was.
What for when God was about to bring you another blessing down the road?
Imagine if your husband is right there. Like, why waste time with these?
Guys. Girls. We need to cut it. Okay, so we are really a strong believer, if you haven't realized, in understanding exactly where you stand, asking the important question that you need to ask, and then cutting things if it doesn't meet your criteria.
Fail fast.
I really believe that when you even start dating, there should be an expiration date on how long you want to spend in this relationship. And if it's not progressing in the right direction, you should cut it. You should put a date in your diary that says reflection. I am going to reflect about my relationship and how it's going. And if it's not going in the direction I want it to go in, I'm going to ask a few more clarifying questions. And then I'm going to bite the bullet and make a decision. And then I exit. Because people are wasting too much time in situations that are not going to lead them anywhere. And everyone likes to say that, there's no such thing as a wasted relationship because you can always learn. No, you actually wasted your time. Like the reality of, you could have discovered what you learned earlier, but you decided to ignore everything, and then you just wasted your time. Why?
So guys, let's do this. Let's analyze our situationships, let's analyze our relationships, and actually have those difficult conversations with ourselves. Like, if this is not working, if you notice that one of the red flags has actually been present in your relationship, either have the conversation and address it, or get it. It's time. It's time for intentional relationships. It's time for relationships where we know where we stand. It's time for relationships that lead somewhere, and you can start. Yeah, it's just time. It's
time. Your time has come. If you needed a word,
here it is.
You got a word from Gabes and Anna. Had it.
Yep. So guys, we hope you enjoyed that video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.